everyone, and welcome to School Psych Chat's GASP edition, the podcast dedicated to all things school psychology in the great state of Georgia. Let's get started.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to School Psych Chat's GASP edition. I'm your host, Kylah, and I'm very excited to bring you this podcast on behalf of the Georgia Association of School Psychologists, or GASP. GASP is a professional organization representing school psychologists in the state of Georgia. It serves as a resource and advocate for its members, promoting the field of school psychology and supporting the well-being and academic success of students. So let's get started. This is National School Psychology Week, and the theme is Finding Your Path. Finding your path is not just for your personal journey as a school psychologist, but also school psychology as a whole, as well as the journey of our organization. GASP was created in 1965 and originally called the Georgia School Psychological Services Association. GASP has gone through many changes over the last 60 years, including making huge strides on behalf of school psychology in Georgia over the last year. So today we wanted to spend some time looking back over the last 60 years of GASP and discussing what the future of GASP looks like. Joining us today are GASP past president Rachel Greenlee, GASP current president Brannon Parks, and GASP president-elect Jakimva Martin. Welcome, y'all.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Kylah.
All right. Can y'all tell us a little bit more about the history of the GASP organization?
Certainly. So in 1965, the University of Georgia had a program called the Experienced Teacher Fellowship Program, and that was with Herman Sorke. And, school psychologists weren't really a thing in Georgia yet. But then he developed a program that expressed the needs of the Georgia school systems at the request of the Georgia Department of Education for persons trained in school psychology. And out of that is where GASP really grew. So that program met for the last time, I think it was 1966, 67. And then the first Georgia School Psychological Services Association meeting that you referenced earlier, is what we were originally called before the Georgia Association of School Psychologists, was held in 1970 in conjunction with the Spring School Psychology in-Service Workshop that was sponsored by Georgia DOE. The Constitution for instead of GASP, GSPSA was adopted at that meeting, and dues in 1970-71 were $10 for professionals and $5 for affiliates and students. And look how reasonable that is. It's only in however many years that is, 58 years, 55 years, has only gone up $80 for professionals and like $30 for students.
That really isn't bad with the number of years.
Our first president that year was Donald Herndon. And as we've gone through, we had a six-member executive board, plus the president then. So the committees weren't established yet. We've gone through a lot of growth over the past 60 years.
Yes, we absolutely have. And we've really skyrocketed. But before we get to kind of what the last few years have looked like, what is the mission of GASP?
So sure, Kylah. And GASP mission, GASP empowers school psychologists to promote the learning behavior and mental health of children and youth in the dynamic educational environment. And that is our mission.
So how do we implement that mission?
Well, I think from my perspective, and I definitely want to hear Brannon and Rachel's perspectives, I think one of the greatest ways that we're able to promote this is by having meaningful and impactful and intentional training opportunities and connection opportunities for our members. And especially given our demographics within the state of Georgia. We have a lot of school systems that are rural or smaller districts that may only have one school psychologist, or you may have one school psychologist that spans and serves multiple different districts. So being able to come together intentionally to support our school psychologists definitely gives those school psychologists that are solo practitioners that opportunity and availability to connect with other professionals, to get feedback, to get encouragement, and to get reassurance sometimes, just to make sure that they're still on the right track, that they have access to all the same tools that other school psychologists that have that collaborative environment, because they have multiple school psychologists. So I would say that's one way that we're ensuring that our school psychologists are able to promote both the mental health, the learning, and the behavior of our students.
Absolutely. And I would also kind of add to that, Jakimva, and say, of course, our professional learning that we offer and the support to school psychologists in Georgia is really such a huge focus. But also, one of the things that I think having that collaborative time and space together that we get when we go to conference or GASP events, I think that that's where we create space to really prioritize as an association what matters to us. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen is just the level of engagement and activity, especially of our committees, and how the committees have grown through the events that we've held, and just being able to disseminate more information about kind of where our focus is, and then also allowing others to kind of get excited about that with us and join in with us to support that work. Because as we improve working conditions in Georgia, we're able to then really support all of our learners, in a much more comprehensive way when we do things like we're working and advocating to address shortages and that sort of thing. So we make sure that our conditions are conducive to really, provide all the services that we can, because it is really comprehensive.
So when you look at what our mission is, it's to promote learning behavior and mental health, the learning behavior and mental health of our children and youth. And as our past president and president-elect have enunciated so clearly, that does occur at conference, at GASP events, when we are collaborating with our other school psychologists across the state. But part of that is also the word promote. So President-elect Martin is the chair also of the advocacy committee, and part of that is going to the Gold Dome and the school board meetings and our city council, county commission, and we're promoting our kids, public education, what we can do in public education and what we need for the students. And those are the people that are the policymakers, the decision makers. They're the ones that actually have the purse strings and set the policy. So yes, it's great that we collaborate amongst ourselves in GASP events, but it's also necessary to let those outside of the public education or just education in general sphere to know what's going on in our schools and with our children.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last year was a really big year for GASP. We were incredibly active, and just honestly, the energy on the entire executive board and within the committees was incredible. I had the opportunity to attend a lot of the committee meetings, one, so that I could be a supporter, but also so that I could provide whatever those committee chairs and those committee members needed to do the work of the association. And so because of their, passion and the commitment that they have to not only the profession, but to the association, we were able to accomplish a lot of exciting things last year. One of the biggest, of course, was the passage of House Bill 81 that was signed into the law by the governor, the Interstate Compact for School Psychologists. So really, becoming a member of the compact with our national association, we're hoping that that is one step that we're taking toward addressing shortages, allowing portability, amongst compact member states. So we're excited to be a part of that compact. And also, I think one of the big accomplishments I saw too, just through that process, was the way that we were able to leverage and strengthen our partnerships with other associations across the state, and also really, really honing in on those key relationships with legislators and those under the Gold Dome that we know that we need to partner with, so we can help advance initiatives that are going to support our students and families. We also renewed our status as a NASP approved provider of professional learning. So we're able to offer that service to all of our members. And so that we continue to provide that high quality professional learning that we talked about earlier, and that it also can help them renew when it's time for those with NCSP, with NASP, to get that taken care of. We've really increased our social media presence. I mean, just greatly. Thanks to Kylah and Jessica Stone, we've just had such a tremendous presence there, which has been nice, I think, for our members too. We've, again, thanks to Kylah, been able to really revitalize our dialogue and get information out to members quarterly so that it's timely and our members are aware of how to what's going on and how they can be involved. But I really think one of the things that I'm, most proud of, honestly, is just that momentum. We had a good turnout when we did our advocacy day at the Capitol, which we were selected to partner with NASP and receive training from them to prepare our members. And we did execute such a successful day. Lots of connections were made, and we learned a lot. Our board and our members at large are really learning how to be effective in that legislative space. And so that has really been exciting to see. But and I would be remiss if I didn't mention how we've navigated challenges last year we just simply have not before. A shift in politics that was very significant, changed things in terms of policy potentially, or there were just a lot of shifts there. And then sadly we had school violence happen in our own state, and so that was something that we as an association navigated. But really just kind of how everyone rallied together, even in the face of those more challenging times, and really supported one another. Our association has just strengthened over the last year just so tremendously, and kind of watching through all the victories, but then also the more challenging times, just seeing the level of engagement. I'm so excited about what's to come for our association.
And I love that. I think, being able to really showcase to our members all of those things, which we did consistently throughout the year, I think that also helped to feed that energy, because people could see the work. Sometimes the work is being done, but we're not doing our best job of promoting that work and sharing that work, sharing both the wins and the challenges, because we know that with wins, there come challenges, and being able to navigate those, I think, to your point, Rachel, was key in being able to continue growing and developing, because that helps to stretch us when you have to face challenges and you have to work through relationships and develop relationships and leverage relationships. That helps us to understand the importance of the advocacy, the importance of communicating with your members about the work that's being done and how it is impacting and helping them, not only from a state level, but right down to their local districts. And so I definitely agree that we had a momentous year last year and the last several years, but I think last year was a really great culmination of a lot of the hard work that had been going on over the last couple of years. So that is super exciting to see. And it's so fulfilling to be able to see members come up and say, hey, we're so excited about the Interstate Compact. We're so excited about the podcast. We're so excited about these things that are going on. Keep doing more of this. Or, hey, can we add this? Or can we change that? And knowing that their voices are being heard and that we are taking all of that information in to try to best serve the school psychologists who are serving our wonderful children in the state of Georgia and our dedicated teachers in the state of Georgia. So I think that is spot on your assessments.
Absolutely. I think that's very well said, y'all. Last year was a huge year. We did a lot, we accomplished a lot, but there's still more to do. So can you talk about kind of where GASP is heading in the future?
Absolutely. I am so excited about this role and about the potential to continue growing and capitalizing on the momentum that we have had over the last several years. And part of what I'm looking at, and as we were at the fall conference, I stopped and talked to school psychologists from all across the state, some that were in our larger districts, some that were in our smaller districts, some that were solo practitioners, to kind of just bend their ear to see kind of what's going well, what are the challenges, what do you need from your association. And in just listening to the information, a lot of what I'm excited about is for us working to have those intentional connections. So as Rachel said, leveraging the relationships, further developing the relationships maybe that we kind of started, but making sure that we're deepening those relationships so that when we have a need, that we have those policymakers, we have those persons who have influence in the different realms that we need to operate and function in to do our jobs and to do our jobs well, so that we can personally call on them to be able to share, okay, here's the data, here's the information, here's what we need, and being able to work through how does that work? How does that look in your particular district or in your particular area? So being very intentional with the connections that we're making with other professional associations in the state of Georgia, being visual, being present at whether it's conferences, key events that they're having, so that they know that the school psychologists of the state of Georgia are committed to this work and that we want to be on the front lines doing the work, then that it's more than just the testing, that we are capable of being able to provide student support services on the front end so that we can be proactive partners in this work of making sure that our children are healthy and whole and well. And so I think for me, that's one of the biggest things that I want to look at us as an association being able to amplify. So we're doing a lot of that, but making sure that we're more concentrated and more specific, and then communicating that back to the members. Hey, here's who we're connecting with. Here's how we're supporting GCASE. Here's how we're supporting Gale. Here's how we're supporting Page or GAE. Being able to ensure that our liaisons that connect us to those organizations are empowered and have that information that they need to be able to share what our concerns are, and to be able to bring back from our partners what their concerns are and how they can help us, so that we're really closing the gap to make sure that we're able to make those connections securely. I'm looking to engage our members and just enhance that engagement. You know, we've seen it through our social media, we've seen it through the podcast, through our conference engagement, but just continuing to work to increase engagement and making sure we have as many engagement opportunities as possible and as feasible, so that our members can get their needs met, because we know that in all of our different areas, there are different things that different regions may be struggling with or that they may need support in. So making sure that we're having those opportunities. And then the final biggest thing for me is conference innovation. So being able to talk through how can our conference better serve. We're doing a great job at serving our community, but are there things from a school psychological services perspective that you feel like we don't necessarily provide at the conference that can be provided, because we know that that is such a large delegation of our profession during those times, whether it's fall conference or spring conference. But how can we make sure that we're meeting the needs of our early career psychologists, our mid-level psychologists, and our seasoned professionals that maybe have a lot of the skill sets and feel very comfortable with that, but maybe they need to navigate things like the administrative roles within our school systems and things like that. So being able to make sure that we have kind of that tiered approach so that we can innovate from that perspective, making sure that we continue to have high quality presenters. Over the last several years, we've had amazing speakers. So we want to make sure that we continue being able to have those amazing speakers that meet the very real and critical needs and the areas that we're wanting to make sure that our members have support in and have great foundations in. I've talked to a lot of the members, and a lot of what I heard is they want hands-on things. They want things they can take back to their districts. So keeping that in mind. So as we're identifying those speakers for upcoming conferences or upcoming training opportunities, making sure that their deliverables that can be provided to our school psychologists that they can take with them, leaving that particular training, that particular workshop, that particular event, that will make them better practitioners, that will make them even more valuable than they already are to their school communities. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at as we continue to move forward and move toward the future for Georgia Association of School Psychologists.
Well said. And I want to just kind of give all three of you kudos for how the past couple of years have gone, especially Rachel. You were the president last year, and yes, it's all a team effort, but you drove the ship. Brannon, you're driving the ship this year, and Jakimva, you'll drive it next year. So yes, it's a team effort, but y'all are the ones that kind of lead that direction and tell the rest of the team the direction that we want to go. So thank all three of you for being here today. This has been a wonderful and informative conversation. Join us next time, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.
That's all for today's School Psych Chat. Thanks for listening. To keep the conversation going, follow us at GASP Online, and don't forget to like and subscribe this podcast. Talk to you next time.